What is going on, Giants Nation? It's your boy, Average Bob, and welcome back to the podcast where we will be having a Week 13 preview on the Monday Night Football game coming up this Monday night up in Foxborough for the Giants versus the Patriots. The 2025 New York Giants are the first team mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. Just light a candle in honor of the 2025 season. So now that we've lit the candle on the end of the 2025 season, we could talk about the upcoming matchup. I want to talk about firing of Shane Bowen, last week's Lions game, and some random other stuff in Giants land and Giants Nation. Again, if this is your first time here, welcome aboard. This is the number one podcast for all things Giants. News, updates, reaction, reviews, highlights, reactions, all of the above. We're going to dive into all of it. So welcome aboard. And with that, we will get started by addressing the Shane Bowen being fired. And now Charlie Bullen, outside linebackers coach, will step in as the defensive coordinator in that role. Guys, I think we've all have talked about this. We were blue in the face, screaming, fire Shane Bowen, fire Shane Bowen. Not just once, not just twice, but about 5 or 6 separate times throughout this season. With all of the double-digit blown leads in games and especially the fourth quarter fiascos, it was just time to cut bait and move on. And I think it's just we've fired Dable. Now Shane Bowen's been fired. And I think there's just been such an ugly just taste in everyone's mouth with the losing culture over the last number of years. I think there's a stat since 2017, the Giants have lost the most games of any team or franchise in the NFL. So this isn't something new to us, losing. We've been very good at it over the last number of years. But I think when you get to a certain point where your losses are, you've turned into a laughingstock. Yes, you do have some young talent, and you have funny plays with Jameis Winston, and it does look funny for a 2-10 team to do all of these things. But when you are a laughingstock, and to my point about the young talent, you have to reset from a cultural perspective and just show that, yeah, winning is everything and losing cannot be accepted. And everyone says, they want to win. We're not happy. Yes, it was a good play. We still lost the game. We're still losing week in and week out. We're 0-7 on the road again. We haven't won a game on the road in years. So there has to be a shift in the change and getting rid of in the culture, and getting rid of Shane Bowen, getting rid of Brian Dable are steps in the right direction. And that's the reason why, no matter what happens with Mike Kafka's coaching debut as the interim head coach, I do think it would be best for the Giants to part ways with him and just get a whole new set of folks in here to coach the team and try and really put that losing culture, close the chapter on it and try to start fresh with a new chapter for a new coach, where he can really, not have any remnants left over where there could be animosity. Maybe Dable will have success if he goes to another team or goes to college. Maybe Shane Bowen will be good as a positional coach or a defensive coordinator somewhere else. Maybe Mike Kafka will probably be a head of football coach next season somewhere. But I don't think it should be with the Giants. So it'll be interesting to see how the team rallies on the road in a primetime spotlight for Charlie Bullen, who's taking over as the outside linebackers coach. And just to touch on, some of what happened last week versus the Lions, blowing the game, then losing in overtime, 34-27, the Jahmyr Gibbs long touchdown run in overtime. And there were some good with this game. I think you saw one of the funniest performances from Jameis Winston you can imagine, 366, 2 touchdowns, and also the receiving touchdown, which I didn't get a chance to watch live. I explained in the video of my highlights reaction video the reasons why I missed it, and just rewatching it or really seeing it in the context of the game for the first time, I was literally howling laughing. And I think probably a lot of you guys were too, watching it in real time. So it is fun. For a 2-10 team, they are incredibly fun. It does feel very different than years past when we've been 2-10 and you're looking around like, I don't think Joe Judge could turn this around. I don't think Ben McAdoo could turn this around. I don't want to see Daniel Jones play football anymore, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on, right? But there are some key guys on this team that do give me hope. I am very nervous still about Joe Shane sticking around. I want to go back and rewatch what I said at the end of last season, where I think I said both of them should go, and just see what's changed, if anything, from my POV then to now. But I mean, Joe Shane has built these shitty teams as well, and his hand is just as, red as everyone else's from the bed shitting, whether performances, but also the players and the contracts. His free agency classes have been pretty bad, but I'll do a full video about that. I want to just keep it about this Lions game, where also Wan'Dale Robinson had one of his best performances as a Giant with 9 receptions for 156 yards and a touchdown, kind of doing it all. And, my knock on Wan'Dale has been like, he's kind of a gadgety player. They just run these terrible screens to him on 3rd and 13. Not necessarily his fault that, he can't make lemonade out of just whatever, apples or something. I don't know, whatever analogy I'm trying to use there, but he's really evolving his game to be, more available downfield, specifically along the lines of these, deep crossers, deep out routes, backside digs, stuff along those lines where he is getting open and he's making good grabs too. I mean, last game he got his ass kicked, but he made a lot of great plays. So he's got some free agency coming up this offseason. It'll be interesting to see if the Giants want to bring him back and what that would cost. And, it's going to change week over week for the rest of the season. And I'm sure he's going to ball out because of that looming contract. And he probably wants to stick around and be a part of this team, but it's going to be from a number perspective. I really wish they just didn't sign Darius Slayton to like $18 million a year, because I would rather have Isaiah Hodgins than Darius Slayton. But truthfully, I'd rather have neither. I'd rather have a true wide receiver too, or someone in the draft. So now Slayton could potentially be preventing that because he's paid so much money and they can't cut him. So that just, goes back to my point about Joe Shane, for a video for another day. And then one thing when I was listening on the radio in the car was, and this video has been making rounds on social media, was just Carl Banks just going absolutely nuts in overtime on the Jahmyr Gibbs long run that Dexter Lawrence was on the bench not playing after a long, the timeout and the break between the end of regulation and overtime. So why is there a rotation at that point? There's been enough time that has passed that he should be fully recuperated to be on the field for a couple more plays, right? And for that point, I do, kind of agree with him there, but, there should be guys that are able to step up. But that's the thing with Joe Shane. He's never found these other guys that can step up and make plays and just be serviceable. Because for a lot of these plays, and you could watch it in my recap, reaction and highlights videos, you could drive trucks through these holes. And it wasn't Gibbs like breaking it out off tackle. He's going in between the guard to guard gaps, and he's untouched pretty much. So does Dexter Lawrence, and this happened a couple times throughout the game, and Dexter Lawrence might have been in on those plays. I don't recall off the top of my head, but is he going to have, especially if he's hurt on top of it, would he have made a huge difference there? Yes, your best players need to be in games and the biggest points of the games. But maybe if he's hurt, I don't know. I'm not trying to make excuses for him not being in the game. I think he should be in the game. He had one quarterback hit and one tackle. So he's just not, I don't want to say that he's regressed, even though the numbers and the tape probably show that he does, compared to last season. But maybe last season was a fluke. These things happen, but maybe it just, he had the injury last year and he just hasn't come back the same yet. Maybe he needs more time. I don't know. Maybe, we should all just give him a pass on this season, even though, he's making a boatload of cash. Let's see how he comes back next year. I don't know. But I do think your best players need to be in the game at the biggest points of that game. So, I mean, that's ultimately probably why Shane Bowen, was canned as a result of that. Moving ahead, I do want to touch on the upcoming matchup between the Giants and Patriots, Monday Night Football. The Giants are 0-7 on the road this season, looking to get a primetime win where historically, That was always a fun infographic when Daniel Jones was playing quarterback for the Giants was, oh, Daniel Jones is like 3 for whatever, 17. I don't know the exact number. I'm just making it up. But it was a crazy amount. And I think all 3 wins were like versus the Commanders or something stupid too. So, yeah, the Giants don't fare well in prime time. We haven't over the number of years. So it'll be interesting to see who plays from a quarterback perspective. I know Jackson Dart missed the last couple of weeks in the concussion protocol. I'm not sure if they'll, if he's fully back to play, if they'll play him. I hope if I'm going to the game. So I'm pretty excited. I hope that he does play if he's healthy enough to do so. Otherwise, so be it. I'll have fun watching Jameis and do Jameis things. To touch on the Patriots, they are having a good season. They've won a bunch of games in a row. I think they're 8-2. They are middle of the pack from a rushing yards per game perspective at 112 yards per game, and I think that's something obviously that will change going into this one. They'll probably get that number up a little bit because the Giants have been so piss poor at stopping the run, no matter who they play. And I think the Lions put a lot on tape last weekend that if you could run between those interior guard, center guard gaps, the A gap, you should have pretty strong success. And the Patriots have great coaching. Mike Vrabel is a great coach. He's more on the defensive side, obviously. I think Josh McDaniels is the offensive coordinator again. So these are guys that are good coaches in the NFL that make the most out of their game plans and the most out of their players. As someone who is a Travion Henderson fantasy owner, I will have to, air my complaints to the offensive coordinator on that one. Because they usually were using Ramondre Stevenson, and then some other guy came in as well. So, but fumbles have been an issue for the Patriots in general and for their running back situation there. So, cold probably. It's definitely going to be cold up there. But we'll see if there's any other weather implications around game time. But there's something to keep an eye on and how that impacts. Maybe they might not have to make Drake May, have another great individual performance as he's had all season, as Drake May is leading the league in passing yards with 3,130, which is crazy. Good for him because last year they were kind of like, oh, man, like what's up with this guy, blah, blah, blah. And then fast forward to this season, new coach and a lot of changes and but the players didn't change that much. So that's the thing why the Patriots kind of give me hope. Like they brought in Stephon Diggs, but I feel like they ran it back with a lot of the guys that they had previously on a pretty bad losing team. So I think there is a power of coaching and maximizing game plans and bringing the most out of the players that they have available to get to 8-2 after you've had a shitty year in 2024. So that gives me a little bit of hope just in general, seeing that if other teams could do it, maybe the Giants can, even though they haven't had success. With the turnovers from Coughlin to McAdoo to Shermer to Judge to Daboll to who's ever up next. Hopefully they can nail it and bring in some good, respected coaching that the players want to, go to bat for, where I feel like they just, as much as Daboll loved and played favorites with a lot of players, like even Malik Neighbors earlier on in this season, where he's like trying to like motivate Malik, and Malik Neighbors is kind of like looking at him like, just leave me alone, dude. Like, and on the flip side of things with the Patriots, you see Mike Vrabel after these games, like dapping up everyone, hugging people. Not to say that makes you a good coach. It's his game plan and his coaching and execution, in between the hash marks, and it's his execution that leads to these strong performances from an X's and O's perspective. But when you get players and teams to buy in and you have success, and I don't even think the Patriots are really doing anything too flashy. It's just second-year quarterback, who is looking better year over year paired with good coaching. It's interesting to see, right? Because Jaden Daniels, he had the injuries and he's kind of taken a huge step back where Drake May's gone forward. So I don't know what point I'm trying to make there. I just think it's interesting for a sophomore comparison and what potentially could happen with Jackson Dart next year. Will he go the route of oft injured, or will he progress, trying to get a little bit better week over week? That's all I got for today's video. I'm going to be at the game. I'm pretty excited for it. The last one I went to was in 2012. Jake Ballard had a receiving touchdown at the end of the game. I'll put the video down below in the comments because I remember being just so pumped up. But that was just a classic Eli Manning fourth quarter game-winning drive versus Tom Brady in Foxborough. It was awesome to be at. A lot less implications of this one coming up on Monday Night Football, but regardless, I'm pretty pumped for it. It will be fun to check out other stadiums because obviously we all know MetLife Stadium is one of the biggest dumps in not just the National Football League, but sports in general. So I'm excited to see Gillette Stadium again, Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, and just have a good time with some old friends. So also, having said that, I like the Giants plus 7.5 here. The Patriots are on a good run themselves, but I think the Giants are like covering every single game because there is a large spread for them as they do lose every game. But the Giants they do play like 3.5 good quarters of football usually to keep them in a game. So I'm looking forward to going. I'm going to be taking the Giants, and maybe I'll post something else from a props perspective, but hope you guys all have a great and happy Thanksgiving with your loved ones. Enjoy everything, and I'll post a recap on Tuesday. Have a good one, y'all.